7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Well, hello world, hello Botswana. Welcome to another exciting session of the Botswana live stream. And this time we find ourselves in the Makgadikgadi and Ngaipan National Park, specifically along the Boteti side of this great massive land. To my right here, we've got the great salt pans, which are some of the largest in the world. And behind me, we've got the Lukubu area. And to my left, we've got the Boteti. We're going to be going out there today, going to see what we can find. Remember that this area is very special. Don't let this quietness behind me fool you, deceive you into thinking that there's nothing out here. Today we're going to be going on a very exciting game drive with Isaac, who's going to be taking us out there to see what we can find. So, shall we meet Isaac? Isaac,
hello Dawson.
How are you?
Good, and you?
Good, good. I understand you're going to be going out to go see what's exciting out there.
Yeah, fortunately I'll be taking you through the whole thing here in Makgadikgadi.
Excellent.
And I believe you'll enjoy your drive.
I definitely believe
before
I
we
will.
start everything, let me just go through the map and so you can see our geographical position in the area.
Excellent.
It's something that is worth it.
Good stuff. Wow, there's a map.
Okay, when we look at the whole thing, this map is much more detailed, especially when it comes to Makgadikgadi. But when you look at the map of Botswana, you'll find that Makgadikgadi is positioned right in the center of the Kalahari. So this will be the Makgadikgadi and Ngaipan National Park here in green, but the whole area that will be moving in will be situated around this area. So this is Makgadikgadi, which is about 4,900 square kilometers.
That's big.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in Makgadikgadi, you will see different stuff, interesting game and life. But besides that, let's just go and see what we can find out.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like you can see, it may seem that like this area is so barren, so empty, and as soon as you continue, you might start seeing some element of life. The area will start springing to life. Let's just enjoy anything that we see, the little things that we see around. You may get to see a lot of trees that seem to be dead, but they are not actually dead. It's only that we're in our summer, it's very hot, and due to the heat, most of the trees try to shed their leaves, preventing the action of losing water through evapotranspiration or through transpiration. But if they lose water, they'll start using more energy to water from the ground. So that's one way in which trees will try to prevent spending energy. The other thing is we have different tree species in the area. We have the acacias, we have the Kalahari apple leaves, and also we have the sickle bushes in the area, which some of the trees you see as you drive along.
Yeah. The Kalahari apple leaf and the sickle bushes, those are quite significant and signs of the trees that you find predominantly in the drier parts of the country.
That's very true.
They seem to thrive a lot more in the deep Kalahari sands.
That's very true. We also consider them to be the pioneer species in the area, because they have their own way of making food. Those trees are very, very important in the area as dry as this place. Okay. Like if you stop here and look around, you can see a lot of scattered dungs and droppings of animals. Be it some of them, when you look at them, you may think there were donkeys in the area, but actually it's donkey-like animals, which we call them zebras. And yeah, I just believe that we may be lucky to see some zebras in the area. Here we also have a lot of dead trees. Sometimes we do look at the dead trees and blame the trees or the dying of trees to the elephants, but I'll explain as we see some of the trees how it came about. So let's continue driving and see what we can find.
Okay. So some of these trees are it could just be other causes and not necessarily elephants that they're...
Yeah, it will not be elephants. It might be other natural causes.
Okay.
Because also, it might be the issue of drought, lack of water, that may cause these trees to die at some point.
Okay. So do you get quite a few elephants around this territory?
Yeah, we do. We do have a number of elephants. And mainly you find bull elephants in this area because they have to walk very long distances between food and water. And the breeding herds, sometimes they find it very difficult to walk those long distances with their cows because the area is so harsh but more interesting. Okay, here we'll just stop a little and see what we have. Let me take this opportunity and talk about this area being the Boteti River. Like we look behind me here, we have the Boteti River. This river is the source of life in this place. Without the Boteti River, I presume that most of this game here would have migrated to other places. Boteti River is an offshoot of the Okavango Delta. It flows to the east in the ancient pathways of the ancient big rivers which used to flow through Botswana into South Africa all the way to the Indian Ocean. But this Boteti River is just the spilling of waters of the delta, and it will start feeding up onto this Boteti River. And Boteti River being spring into life is the source of all life that you see here. It's because of the richness of the game due to the Boteti River, and the bird life here is so rich also because of the Boteti River. Without the water, sometimes we look at the whole thing and say, without water there's no life, but where there's water there's life.
True.
And that's the reason why you find that bird life is good and animal life also here is good. And this river is also it's a pulling factor for the migratory animals like the zebras. We have a lot of zebras here which will migrate following where they can find water. You look at the zebras, you look at the elephants, those are the animals that cannot stay or live without water. They need to drink water. If need be, they can drink on daily basis. But if it's the issue of traveling between food and water, they can either skip a day or two without drinking, but they'll still head back to Boteti River.
Yeah.
So this is the main pull factor for the game in this area. Okay, let's continue.
All right.
The other thing is, you look still in this river, you can find that there are some green grasses. And you look up there, you see the grasses is so dry and there's nothing much for these animals. But you come here, you get good green grasses that is much more nutritious and palatable to the wild animals. Speaking of which, you may also as well see a good bird life. I'll show you some birds as we continue driving.
I can imagine that this amount of water would invite and entice most of the aquatic species, that love and depend on water.
Yeah, it's very true. Like, let me just explain something briefly. Sometimes we look at the water, we look at life, and we consider life to start from way up, but we forget the microscopic organisms where life begins. And it's just the small thing, the microscopic things that life begins, and the food chain, that's where it begins. And there are other things that will feed on these small microscopic organisms until we get the bigger game. It starts way from the bottom. That's why sometimes we say, don't destroy the little things, because little things are very, very important in our ecosystem. It makes it what it is. Like we look in the water here, we can see that we have the algae, the greenish substance that you see in the water. That's the algae. Algae, we'll find it mainly in areas where you have stagnant water. This water of potato is flowing, but in some portions the water will be stagnant, but it doesn't mean that it's anything toxic in this water. This is just fresh water, of which we also have some fishes in this water, and all animals and the birds will always find something to feed on. Okay, continuing, we have a lot of stuff to see, but I'm still looking at the smaller stuff before we look at the big game.
Well, the smaller stuff is also very interesting.
That's the small stuff that makes the big game, or the big things. I'll just quickly go out and show you something. Sure. If there's nothing to worry about. Okay, don't worry, but in safari, in the bush, we handle certain things that some people look at and feel, okay, this is not nice, and they shy away from, but it's nature. There's nothing wrong with holding the elephant dung. It's just something that you learn a thing or two from it. Looking at this elephant dung, I just want to show you. Okay, I'll have to put it back nicely. There will be certain things here on this elephant dung. Like you look. If I'm to show you little here, you can see in the dung there's a lot of undigested material. From what the elephant feed on, only about 40% of its diet or food gets digested. 60% comes out undigested. That's the time when you have some birds, some beetles, other little things, they come and start feeding on the elephant dung. You also have the monkeys, the baboons and the monkeys scratching on the dung, looking for food, because they can still find undigested material from the elephant. Also, elephant acts as seed dispersers. I'll show you some signs of good seed dispersal by the elephants, because they do not digest everything that they feed on. So that is just to show you how things are. I'll have to put this down back the way I got it, and not to trouble where it was. Thank you. Let's continue.
So because they digest such little of the food that they eat, this is why they continuously eat so much food, so that they're able to get nutrition enough.
Exactly. They have to eat continuously so that they can get as much nutrients as possible from their food. So I think from here, we just stop here, and having said a few things about the elephants, let's look at that dead tree over there, the standing dead tree. You look at that tree, so beautiful. You can see that it has lost all its bark, but there's the trunk, which is a bit shiny. That is due to the elephants scratching themselves on those dead trees. We call them the rubbing posts, because when these guys have had their water and spraying mud and dust on themselves, at some point the skin will be a bit itchy. They go to those rubbing posts or dead trees and start scratching themselves, because they do not have hands like me and you. So they have to improvise and get something that they can use to scratch themselves, to relieve themselves from the itchiness. So that's a typical example of how they would do it, using the dead trees or stumps.
I'm sure it also helps them as they rub off if there's any parasites in that mud.
Exactly.
to be able to be rubbed off from their skin.
Exactly, especially when it dries up. The other thing is not only, but here just because we're talking about the rubbing of the elephants, but the spraying of mud on their bodies. Like you look at their skin, is a bit wrinkly. It's a way of trying to keep themselves cooler for a little bit while, because in the wrinkles you can find that the mud will still be stuck in there, and the waters will remain there for some time. That is the beauty of nature, seeing how animals have adapted to certain instances.
Improvision of not having hands, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they want to use everything available at their disposal.
Well, maybe later we can get a mud bath and then rub there and see what happens.
I'll come after you. Okay.
All right.
As you continue, you can see I'll just show you a few other things and explain why and what happens to a lot of this dead tree. Quickly, let me just go through what happens to these dead trees. But I'll consider the trees on the right, closer to the waters here. Like you look at these trees here, most of them, you may wonder, why are there so many stumps in the water? What happened to the trees which were in this place? Yes, most of these trees died due to the fact that at some point when this river dried up, the tree started growing, and when the tree grew in this area and the river started flowing again, these trees couldn't stand long in the water because they will be waterlogged and they have to succumb, or they died. That's why you find that there are a lot of stumps in the river, not because of anything, but because at some point the river dried up, and these trees, when the rivers spring to life, they started dying. Other trees that you may see in the area, you start to wonder what is happening. Why can't you collect the firewood and all the like? But the thing is, we cannot collect firewood in the park. Not only in the park, but this will be home and food to a lot of animals or creatures. Remember the cockroaches. We have the dry wood termites that feed on these dead trees. It will be shelter, be it to snakes, some scorpions, some little things. They take refuge in these dead trees. Speaking of cockroaches, the only cockroach that we know is that the annoying cockroach that will be chasing around our houses. But we forget that there are over 3,000 species of cockroaches. Most of them, they feed on the same dead trees. And they also help in bringing back fertility to the soil, because the soil needs to be fertile in order to produce. And that is the other reason why we have these little creatures in the ecosystem, and we really have to see how we do things around these areas. Okay, continuing, we have beautiful looking animals.
Wow.
Standing patiently waiting for you, Dawson.
I can see that. That's quite a lot of these.
Yeah. So I think here it will take us to another subject story, of which let's look at the animals we have here. These are the zebras. The zebras that we have here, we call them the plains zebra. Before I go further talking about the zebras, I think that we reached that moment whereby I can say we have known of large herd of migration of zebras in other parts of Africa, but there's little known about our place, a small country in southern Africa, which has the second biggest migration of zebras.
Second largest, huh?
Second largest, and the longest migration. They have the longest migration route.
Wow.
Which is, according to the researchers, they say that it's about 500 kilometers every year. Remember, they will migrate between seasons, dry season and rainy season. So the zebras that we have here, during the dry season, they migrate coming to this river, Butiti River, because that is the only source of water in the area. Some of the zebras will migrate northwards towards Chobe River, which is about 500 kilometers coming from the pens. When the pens fills up, they'll move from the pens and go all the way up. But here you have around about 20,000 zebras migrating into this Boteti area or Makgadikgadi area in dry season, especially coming along the Boteti River where they can find water. Like I said, they need to drink on daily basis if need be, because they cannot do well without water. So this is the pull factor. If you look at the zebras that we have here, we'll drive closer, then you can see. Look at their forehead. You find that they have like a diamond shape on their forehead, and being our national animal, they incorporate two things: the diamond on their forehead, which is the main economic resource in our country, the diamond. And these guys, the zebras, are also our national animal. Why our national animal? If you look back, our forefathers were wise enough to try and see how they can accommodate different races in the country. And picking up the zebra to be a national animal, it was so wise that it blends the black and the white together, and of which it makes this animal so colorful and so beautiful. And I think we can also say we're a beautiful nation if we have both whites and blacks in one area. So let's drive slowly towards them and see if we can see all those details.
Wow. That's a lot of zebras, Isaac. I mean, I'm looking at the zebras in front of us, and they stretch all the way as far as my eye can see. There's movement going up, there's movement coming down.
Definitely. It will be a lot of them, since they're always coming down to find some water, especially in this heat of the day. Okay, I think let me just stop here. It's okay here. And let's have a look at them. So the other interesting thing is that there might be many zebras coming together, especially the different herds or harems or herds they meet at the water point, but they still know each other. They know each other by their markings, they know each other by scent, they know each other, and the stallions will always try and keep their harems together. And it's just like when they migrate, they will come together and embark on that migration, but the stallions, they still know, and they will continuously try and keep their harems together. They do not want them to mix with other harems. At the end of the day, as they reach their destination, they'll find that, okay, they've lost some of their family members. But here, they always know, constantly know where to, how to keep up with the rest of the family members. The other interesting thing with the zebras is that, having said that their stripes are each zebra has got its own stripes. Let's look at the female. When it gives birth, the foal will stay with the mom for some time, and to have the mom's stripes imprinted into its brains, but just to differentiate the mom's stripes from any other zebra in the area. Because if it fails to do so, it will mean that at some point it will get lost and it will be nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
So these animals are quite interesting and quite beautiful. Like when you speak of the migration again, going back to the subject of migration, between the seasons, like from November, December, when the rain starts, they will move from north going down south, which is around this area, the Makgadikgadi area. And when the waters have subsided, especially around the salt pens, they start embarking on a longer journey to the north again. That will be between March, April until around June. They start going up again, where they can find source of water. And here in Boteti, we still have a lot of them remaining, and they start coming here and along Boteti River, also around March, April. That's when you start seeing the migration of zebras happening. Around November, December, when the rain starts, they go eastwards. Most of them, they go eastwards to the salt pens, and they start feeding on the nutritious grasses around the salt pans, because there will be a lot of calcium, a lot of salts in the grasses that they'll be feeding on in that area, and that is to give them stronger bones and stronger teeth and more energy, bigger structure. That will help them also to withstand this harsh environment.
It's amazing that, you know, when you're just sitting out here and looking at them, and the way that nature organizes herself, you know, and gives these animals the sense to migrate and the direction to migrate from one area to another to utilize the resources that are in and around there. I mean, that's a very interesting fact about the, you know, migrating to the salt pans, because the grasses there are more nutritious and have got all those other nutritious values combined of the calcium and all the salts.
Yep. So interesting, so beautiful. Just quickly, let's also say something about, I don't want us to miss the birds also. Look at those spare-winged gooses there in the water. They're just busy enjoying themselves. They'll be looking for food. They'll be also enjoying themselves. Like you can see that other one, technically they're just bathing there. I've said that water brings life, and everything in the area springs back to life. The birds will be enjoying, fish will be enjoying, everything will be enjoying in the area. So it's so beautiful being in Makgadikgadi.
Is this the largest of the goose family that we get in this part of the country?
Not really, but it's one of the big groups that you can find in the area. We also have different aquatic bird species in the area. We'll see them as we drive along, and we can still point them out. Okay.
Cool. Wow, what an amazing sight of these zebras.
So we just drive slowly, hoping that will not spook them much, but they're just on our way. Let's see what happens.
So to all our viewers out there, Isaac is trying very slowly to drive through so that we get a closer look at the zebras, but also to be on our way and see what else is out there. But remember, the zebras are not an aquatic animal. They come to the water, they depend on it, they rely on it to be able to drink every day. However, they do feel safer when they're in the forest, which is their natural habitat, or out in the tree lines. So they may run off, but they will definitely come back again. They'll run off a short distance and they'll come back again, back to the water. The running off is just to basically make sure that they're safe. So these stripes are like, they would be the equivalent of a fingerprint to a human being.
Exactly. So you look at them, especially those ones standing facing us, and you can see. Okay, let me just quickly stop here. If you look at this other one, which is, the stripes are not that prominent.
Yeah.
It's a young foal which was probably born sometime in December, January, and you can see how it is like. And they start learning also the migration routes as they move with their parents, going either way. They start learning also. The other question that somebody might ask: who are the predators to the zebras? Yes, of course, we have lions, who would turn out to be the main predators to the zebras. And apart from that, the zebras, sometimes people have, like, they call them, the collective name for zebras is a dazzle. You look at them when they're crowded together, they'll basically dazzle your eyes. You cannot make a borderline of each zebra from another. So hence they call them the dazzle.
Well, I hope everybody else watching is as dazzled as we are right now, Isaac.
Yeah, it's a big herd actually. Look at them. Some are just relaxed and some are going up, and they'll move as per their families.
Yeah. I'm sure this must be a great area for budding photographers, you know, in terms of such an expanse array of subjects to be able to photograph, you know, whether it's zebras in the water, zebras on the dry side. I know I'd definitely love to be able to come here and just literally sit here and take pictures all day.
Definitely. they give you, and again, you look at the way they are relaxed. Look at, sometimes you get to see a lot of activities because there are times when they'll be chasing each other, running around, playing or fighting, and then that's more scenic, more interesting to even photographers, as you are saying, because they come out here and you get that opportunity and to do as much photography as you could. Okay, let's look at that zebra if you can. You can see he's busy scratching himself on that log. Like we were talking of the elephants scratching themselves. These guys have no hands to scratch themselves, so they use any available means. Look at that.
Well, I'm definitely glad I don't have to use a log to scratch myself. Right.
So that's so interesting, so impressive.
Yeah.
If we look again at the zebras, you find that having said that they do have the longest migration route, it's something that is least known in Botswana. It's least known. The only thing that a lot of people know about is the migration, the large migration that they will find in Serengeti and Masai in East Africa. But here in Southern Africa, this is the biggest and the longest the biggest migration of zebras, and they have the longest route ever recorded. So it's a spectacle to watch, especially at the right time. You can see and enjoy that moment when these zebras migrate. The other question would be, well, are they migrating alone? Where are the wildebeests? Yeah, you always see them with the wildebeests. There are times when you see them with the wildebeests, there are times you see them alone. Like currently, they're just alone. We may be lucky to bump on the wildebeest with the zebras also. Okay. Like some of them will also cross over into the water and start feeding on the green grasses there, because that's what they need. More nutrients, more palatable of all the grasses that they can find. You can see how they throw the dust when they walk.
Yeah.
Because of their hooves, the way their hooves are
Designed. Wow, yeah, it's amazing. It's definitely amazing.
so beautiful. Okay, possibly let's just look at those ones in the water there. You can see it's not that they've gone into the water to drink, but they're busy nibbling on those grasses there. The other question that somebody might ask, is there any danger of crocodiles in the water? Well, we have few crocodiles here, but they are always in the shallow waters, not in deep waters. I mean, the zebras, they always feed in the shallow waters, not in deep waters, where they can encounter the crocodiles, which may turn out to be a danger to them.
I know that in where I come from, when livestock or wild animals feed, of the acacias as well. So it's not like every single one of them is gone down. There's still quite a few up there.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I'll just quickly, I want to show you something, especially with the acacias. When I was saying some of these trees, how do they thrive in an area like this? Let me just show you the leaf formation. If you look at this tree, the leaves are so that they are divided into small leaflets, of which the area surface of the whole leaf is so small that it will lose less water. And that's the reason why you find that at the end of the day, these trees can thrive well in a dry place. And seeing them being green now, it doesn't mean that they are losing much water, but it's that time. And again, you look closer, you can see those thorns. This tree is quite nutritious, and these thorns you see is just modified leaves. These are the modified leaves that helps the tree to protect itself or to prevent itself from being overbrowsed by the browsers. The browsers will refer to giraffes, will refer to the kudus, the impalas. But if it turns out to be overbrowsed, it will mean that at some point it will not be able to photosynthesize. If it fails to photosynthesize, it means the end of the tree. So hence it has to develop those thorns. But the interesting thing is the leaves, so small that it prevents it to lose more water and preventing it to suck as much water as it can from the ground, wasting much energy.
Yeah, so the size of those leaves, basically, they play a very important role in the survival of the tree.
Exactly. Play a major role, and without those leaves, I believe they would have shed their leaves, trying to withstand the situation that they find themselves in. So the other thing is, you may look at the area and you say, oh, this is so dry and no grass, nothing. But when the rain comes, everything springs to life. You start to wonder, is it the same place that I've been driving in during summer or during the dry season? But I'm telling you, this place is so beautiful. And the scent that you see here, well, of course we're in the Kalahari. So in Kalahari, there's a lot of sand. And that's one thing you can enjoy being in Kalahari.
Yeah, so I can imagine that, you know, with the salt pans sort of on our easterly side, and then we've got all this Kalahari sand here. You go through different terrains of very deep, thick sands, and then all of a sudden, boom, you get out into these large, open, salt-crusted pans like up in the Ntoto area.
Yeah, it's true. It's so interesting because the other thing is that like we look at the whole water system here of Boteti, it ends up right in the salt pan, and it's a big body of water. It's just linked actually with the Okavango Delta.
Yeah,
it's just one system. As we continue, we might wonder, we have big holes on our left. These big holes we have here are basically the holes that have been made by the elephants. You can see how big and deep they are. These holes were dug by the elephants. The elephants were basically trying to gather mud to spray on themselves. Like I said earlier, they get the mud and spray on themselves to try and cool down, especially when it's very harsh and hot. Elephants cannot sweat. having said that elephants cannot sweat, now they need to find means of cooling themselves down. And one of the main things is just to get the mud and spray on themselves to try and cool themselves down. And still in the elephant hole there, we have those two beautiful looking birds, which we call the helmeted guinea fowls. Helmeted guinea fowls because of the bony casque that you see on their heads. They say that to have two species of guinea fowls, one of them you'll find it in the far northern part of Botswana, where along the Zimbabwean border, that is the crested guinea fowl, but you will not find it down here. We only have the helmeted guinea fowl. And they are basically seed eaters. They'll try to look for anything that they can find, and you see them also scratching the ground looking for food. Yeah, back to this big hole dug by the elephants. It depends on the soil that they have, their own soil preferences. The muddy soil or the clay soil is their preference because it can stick on their bodies for some time. And also that's the reason why you find that they always dig these areas, taking out or excavating the area, looking for those mud and spraying on themselves before they can go to the rubbing posts. And this is a typical example of the holes that they will make in an area. Okay, let's just slowly drive and look at those beautiful things there.
Wow.
Okay, I think I'll try to drive as slow as possible. I think let me just stop here. I think it's perfect enough. If you look over there, you can see those ducks with the ducklings. Those are the Egyptian geese. Actually, it's just Egyptian geese with their little ones. And see how they float in the water. Things are so different. I know that somebody might say, oh, I thought that they start hatching or they start laying eggs during the rains when there's enough food. But you know, in nature, it's not according to the book. Things are a bit different. What you see out there will not always be like the way you read it in the book. It's always different. So that's the reason why when you go out there, you see different things. Like we can see, I've seen most of the Egyptian goose with their chicks, especially during the rains. Not this time around, but this is a wonderful sighting. Seeing an Egyptian goose this time of the year with the little ones.
Like it's amazing, and there's so many of them.
Yeah, it's quite a number of them. So beautiful. And you can see that one is just feeding on the grasses there. But these birds are basically, they eat on the grasses and the small greenish leaves. Okay, let's hope that the little ones will go up on that log. Trying, but they're failing.
To our viewers out there, everybody joining us, there's an Egyptian goose couple with chicks. We can't exactly count how many chicks they are. But there are quite a few, and like Isaac just said, this is an unusual time to see them with chicks. Not that it doesn't happen, but because we are witnessing it. And I don't know if anybody else can pick it up, Isaac, but in the background we can hear some long-tailed shrikes calling.
Yeah. That's the magpie shrike or the long-tailed shrike. It's just calling from the background.
Yeah.
And the sound is so... it breaks the silence of the buteti.
Now as we approach, they immediately run into water because that is where they feel safest.
So you can see as soon as they feel we're not a threat to them, they start relaxing, and you can see they've actually when danger comes. I've seen it happen that one of the parent was just literally trying to get the eagle away from the chicks, which was quite interesting.
Interesting.
So you can see how they float. The geese and the ducks are said to have many feathers, and it's mainly also due to the feathers that they have that helps them to float in the waters.
So it increases their buoyancy.
Yes, it increases their buoyancy. Their feet are webbed, and that's why they will use also to swim across. Not every bird can just swim, so the geese and the ducks and other aquatic species, they can easily swim across because their feet are webbed. Okay.
See, sometimes it's not just about the big stuff, but it's the little stuff that you hardly ever get to see as well. That's quite interesting.
Very true. It's from the little things that you see life with a different lens.
Yeah.
If you consider the bigger things, you may fail to understand life from the small things.
Yeah, this is true. Isaac, I can't help but notice, I think there's a herd of elephants walking up in front there, but they're slowly walking away from us.
Yes, very true. Having said that, we do have elephants in the place. As you can see, they're busy walking further away from us. These elephants will come here during the day or late in the afternoon, but mostly you see them during the day coming to drink water, because that's the time when they try to relax and go into the water, swim, play in the water, and cool themselves down. After cooling themselves down, they start embarking on a long journey trying to find food. Remember, an elephant will have to eat around about plus or minus 150 kilos in a day.
Oh.
So that's a lot to help it propel this massive body. So if it will not find food, it means something else. So they have to walk longer distances. The good thing again with the elephants this time is that they start feeding also on those green trees where they can extract more nutrients. You can see they're basically they're possibly going to cross. They're going to cross to the other side.
Yeah, maybe we'll be able to see them crossing.
Yeah, let's see if we can see them at a different angle, if you are so lucky.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Well, so they have to consume quite a lot, huh?
They consume a lot.
And drink a lot of water to stay.
Drink a lot of water.
Well, it's not bad. I mean, I eat about 120 kgs a day, so it's okay. I feel them, you know. I understand.
Yeah, you understand the position.
Yes,
there.
You know.
That's great.
You need a lot of fuel to fuel these big bodies.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
So do you get a lot of raptors, the birds of prey around here?
We do have a number of raptors in the area.
Okay.
There's one area which has quite a number of raptors. Also, we do have some vultures. We do have the vultures. The common species of vulture being the white-backed vulture. Okay, let's see if we can get to see those elephants.
Yeah. I think if we pull off there, just by that log there, and then we can have a look at them, in front of that log
Yeah,
there,
this
Isaac,
log here.
and see if we can't catch them in the camera as they're swimming across.
Okay, there you go. Okay, if you look at the elephants there, they're just gone into the water, and let's see where they're going, their intention is, but I foresee them feeding on the grasses over there, and also the grasses, the greens that you see there, that's what they're going to feed on. And there's also a possibility that they may cross over. The small ones, where they cannot walk, they will just literally swim across.
And I see, as you know, the small one in the middle there, the trunk will hang out like a little snorkel
Like
as well, just to be able to breathe.
That's very true. I think that also it diffuses the myth that elephants, when they cross the waters, the little one will just have their trunk holding the tail of the bigger ones. So they need to breathe. Then they'll just take out their trunk like a snorkel to breathe. You can see they're slowly crossing over, enjoying themselves in the water. There you go, they're feeding on the green grasses. Some of the grasses that we have there is called the hippo grass.
Mm-hmm.
So in this place, Makhadi, we do mostly you see a lot of male elephants because of mainly the distance that they have to walk between food and water. So they walk a very long distance. In most cases, the breeding herd prefer to come a bit in the afternoon when the sun cools down. That's the time they will try and come down to the water to drink. But when it's so hot, they try to protect their young ones from the hot sun.
But it's also amazing that we're looking at, this is like what you would term as a bachelor herd, right?
Yes.
And the different sizes of elephants within that group of boys that is in there.
Yeah.
Telling different ages of them.
That's very true, because what happens is that when this young male reaches a certain stage, like let's say from 15 years, that's the time when they have to be ousted from the breeding herd, and they'll try to associate themselves, or they find a group of younger males to stay with them, be it bigger males to stay with them. That's when they learn the essence of life, of being a bull elephant. So they start learning those lessons, where to go, where to find food, how to defend themselves at this tender age, around 15 years, when they are being ousted from the breeding herd.
So basically wisdom is passed from the older boys that have been on the routes, and they know the good water holes, good feeding grounds.
Exactly.
And they pass it on to the younger males.
Exactly. So that's what happens with this. So you can also hear how it is like in the water, the sound, as they move across.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Can you hear that?
I can hear that.
Sometimes it's nice to just be silent and listen.
Yes, not true. That sound, it almost sounds like a stream going over rocks.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, that explosion of that.
So like you can see, they just crossed over to the other two elephants on the other side. And definitely they'll be on the other side for some time. Then later they'll just cross back and go to the east. Wow.
Wow, looks like everybody's coming down to drink.
Yeah, you can see more elephants are coming.
Judging from, the size and the tusks, the second guy on the other side, he looks like a wise old bull.
Yeah, he seemed to be a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Seem bigger than some of those ones. So, from what we see here, but it is not all about, though we have been talking more about the zebra migration, it's not all about the zebras, it's also about different species of animals. Like we've seen the elephants, few elephants, we also see a lot of herbivores in the area. We also have the giraffes, we have the kudus, also have the predators. But you can still see more in this area. It's not that it's just a desolate place as people will refer to
like
it.
To think of it, yeah.
Exactly. It's a very rich place, which has interesting dynamics of animals in this place. So you can enjoy being in this place, seeing different species and how they have adapted to staying in this Makgadikgadi area.
Excellent. No, Isaac, that was really a beautiful drive. Thank you very much. I'd like to do it all over again. See, if we can't see more zebras. Yeah?
You're welcome. Thank you.
Wow. I'm just taking in the silence. Well, to all our viewers out there who joined us on this game drive, I definitely hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, as I did. To have been able to witness that many zebra concentrated in one area. Moving off, I'm just speechless. And I think that was a perfect ending with the elephants coming through. Now remember that we are in the Makgadikgadi National Park, within the Boteti region, and behind me here is the Boteti River. Which is host to an abundance of fauna and flora. Now folks, remember that this river here is part of a river system that flows all the way from Angola through Namibia, draining off into Botswana. A very unique river system that starts inland and finishes inland. I can't help but wonder, standing here, looked at and overshadowed by these large leadwood trees and acacia trees, the camelthorn acacia, standing on this riverbank, like giant sentinels standing guard, with the sounds of elephants feeding. I can't help but wonder, what mysteries could they help us solve? What secrets could they tell us about what has been happening in these areas for all these years? Maybe I'll ask them. But remember, we were live in the Makgadikgadi National Park in the Boteti region. Thank you for joining us. And for those that have not yet joined, please remember that you can join us on www.botswanalive.co.bw. Remember that we do have a live chat on our social media platforms for all inquiries and questions to be answered. Please, let's continue following our COVID protocols. We do follow them, we do enforce them. And see you on the next adventure. Follow us to the Central Kalahari on the 27th of this month. Dawson Ramsden signing out.
Botswana Live.